Taking a look back at what Chris and Duran and I had 4 years ago makes me realize that we definitely did have something special. This is one of the reasons why I decided to bring back the Sports Hit List for 2014. But this time, we have a lot new cast, new movement, and a totally new, different idea. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a new season of the Sports Hit List. I have a very good sports junkies group on Facebook, so I invited some of my friends who are in that group to come here and participate on the first segment of the new season of the Sports Hit List. Let's introduce the cast. We have Nick over here, right? The guy that everyone hates. We have Justin, his sidekick, right? We have Kenny.
He's on my sidekick, sir.
Kenny over here, and then we have Justin 2.0 to join us on the cast. You guys ready to have some fun?
Yep.
All right, so our first topic we have is one of the most popular NFL topics is who is the greatest quarterback of all time? A lot of times we go back and forth with this topic, and a lot of people can't decide on who is the greatest. There's really no clear-cut right or wrong answer, so I want to get your opinion on that. So for your top 5 quarterbacks of all time, Kenny, who do you have?
Well, I believe their names speak for themselves, so I'm not really going to go into statistics and all that stuff.
Okay.
But we have Joe Montana,
Okay.
Tom Brady, John Elway, Johnny Unitas, and Peyton Manning.
Okay, so Joe Montana is your number 1, right? Yes. Justin 2.0, who do you have?
My list starts off with Peyton Manning. It's followed by Joe Montana, Tom Brady, Dan Marino, and John Elway.
All right. Nick.
I got Joe Montana, I got Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, John Elway, Dan Marino.
And Justin for last.
I have Joe Montana, Manning, Tom Brady, John Elway, and Dan Marino.
Okay, so now my next question is, how did you guys come? Now we have 3 for Joe Montana as number 1, and you went with Peyton as number 1. So how did you come to your conclusion about having Peyton instead of Joe with the other guys?
I put him first just because, he has the all-time MVP record. He, all the passing records that he just accomplished this year. I know he's around 20 touchdowns away from the all-time touchdown record.
Okay.
They both, like you were saying, their numbers speak for themselves, everything. It could be debatable. I just put Peyton ahead mostly, I think because of the records, the MVPs, all the success he's had there. Not that Joe Montana hasn't, he's a champion himself, but I think those records gave him
so
the
his
edge.
individual records as opposed to the Super Bowl championships.
Because they both have, the team championships, and he has those individual records as well.
Okay.
One thing I think me and Kenny disagree on is where Peyton Manning ranks. I would have Montana ahead of Manning right now. I think when all is said and done, to me, Manning will be number 1. I know Ken disagrees with that. He has him 5. My only thing is with Montana, Manning's numbers are better than Montana's. They're always going to be better than Montana's. So there's never going to be a comparison there. That's always going to be, one's going to be better than the other. Now, one thing you can't, deny is Montana's got 4 Super Bowls. He's been to 4 Super Bowls. He's won 4 Super Bowls.
Right.
Peyton Manning's been to 3 Super Bowls, won 1, lost 2. And just a couple months ago, he looked really bad losing the last one.
Right. Okay, but do you think, now this is a follow-up, do you think his performance in the last Super Bowl impacts where he's ranked all time now? Does that play a big factor into it?
I think your performance in big games for a quarterback is always going to weigh heavily. For example, Peyton's younger brother, Eli Manning, all the statistics, everything will tell you that he's, average, above average quarterback. No, but it's a good example because you asked him, because everything that's going to be said about him is, his numbers are, he has a couple 4,000-yard seasons, some 30-touchdown seasons. Then he led the NFL in interceptions 2 different times. So he's been inconsistent. That's what's wrong.
But can I just interject real quick, just a little bit?
Okay.
As far as Joe Montana, right now he's ranked number 1 in touchdown passes in playoff history.
Okay.
At 45 touchdowns. He has 11 touchdowns and no interceptions in 4 Super Bowls. He's 4-0 in Super Bowls. These factors have to be looked at when you're saying who's the best. Well, obviously Peyton will eclipse him in yards and stuff like that. But look at his playoff record, 11-12.
Okay.
1-2 in Super Bowls.
Okay.
He's
it's a fair point, but before you made the point, you said that it's also a team sport, and that's so important because, guys who have playoff records you know, Mark Sanchez has a good playoff record. Mark Sanchez has a higher winning percentage in the playoffs than Peyton Manning, and I don't think anybody here is drunk enough at this time in the morning to argue that Mark Sanchez is better than Peyton Manning.
When was the last time Mark Sanchez was in the playoffs?
Obviously, Mark Sanchez's
you guys
playoff record.
I can move back if you want. I can get out the middle. You guys want to go
Mark
back
Sanchez is
and
an
forth.
example. All right, obviously
That's
Mark Sanchez is
pretty.
not Joe Montana. Joe Montana has done so much more. But the thing is like you can't just dump everything on the guy's team. You know, like the same thing with like Brady. Brady's won playoff games where he's been bad, where he's been, you know, Brady's got a better playoff record than Peyton Manning, obviously. But Brady's won playoff games where he's thrown 3 interceptions. He had 1 touchdown against the Chargers in the AFC Championship
I mean,
game.
Peyton Manning has too.
No, he does. No, I understand that.
They all have. The
Of
question
course.
is, right now, top 5 all time. You got it. It's nitpicking. It is
Right,
nitpicking
right, yeah,
at
yeah,
its
yeah,
best.
it is,
So
but
when you
that's the name of
nitpick,
the
that's the
game.
name of the game. So when you nitpick, you got to look at these things. It's like team, individuals,
Right,
better
absolutely.
team, and stuff like that. It all goes hand in hand.
Right.
And it's not Joe Montana's fault he had a better team. It's
No,
not
it's
Peyton
not.
Manning's fault they had a better team.
Right.
Because honestly, Tom Brady I think will eclipse Joe Montana before Peyton Manning will.
Would you want to add to any of what the guys are saying in terms of assessing? How did you come to your conclusion in terms of picks?
I think that they all make very fair points. You know, he does have more championships than Manning. You certainly have to take that into effect. I just look at it as you know, they both got to that plateau. So and with the individual records, that's why I put Manning on there.
Okay, Justin 1.0. Final thoughts on the segment.
I think the big thing that Kenneth mentioned also is 11 touchdowns, 0 picks in the Super Bowl between Montana and Manning. I disagree with Brady. My biggest knock on Brady is that he doesn't play for more than one team. I kind of see him as a system quarterback.
Okay.
Compared to Elway, he played for different coaches. Compared to Manning, who's been successful for 2 different franchises.
Okay.
Between Montana, who was successful with the Chiefs for the season he was there. Between Marino, who was also several different coaches as well. That's my biggest knock on Brady. He's always had the same head coach. He's always been the same system. Nothing's really changed.
That's the first I've ever heard that being successful with a coach and a team is a knock against you.
Right.